Well, Sean Lennon here with the Pro Wrestling Enforcer podcast, and we are proud to support of Pride Month this month with the Pro Wrestling Enforcer podcast. So make sure to check out for exclusive content for that. And right now, we're talking to Cam Raithel on Pro Wrestling Enforcer. She's a familiar, friendly face at the Freelance Wrestling, Freelance Underground, Black Label Pro, Warrior, but now she's a trainee at Freelance Wrestling Academy, making her big debut for the Academy project at Freelance Wrestling. Press start at the Emporium in Logan Square on June 30th. And make sure to follow Pro Wrestling Enforcer. And we appreciate you being on, Cam. Hope everything is going well with you.
Oh yes, it's going great. I'm really excited to do this.
Great, glad to have you on. And you have really a great anticipated match, of course, that's happening. I'm sure you're excited for, and we'll get to that later. But why has pro wrestling made your life better, do you think, at this point?
I would say a lot of it would, when I was younger, it's just the basic, I never really had any friends. So, I was always having my own, like things to do. So watching wrestling a lot of the time was like things that I did in my free time. And it's just, there's so much creativity that goes behind pro wrestling. And I love being able to appreciate that. And so now it's like being in pro wrestling and training with freelance, I'm making so many new friends, and it's just one big family. And you meet so many great people, and to be able to travel, I went to Texas for GCW and I met a lot of people there, and to help set up and everything, just having a great time with traveling with those people is like one big thing that has helped me a lot. And it's just made my life so much better, just in general. So I would say that would be like a big thing that's just helped me in loving pro wrestling and everything.
And definitely. I know have you had a prior athletic background before you wrestled?
Kind of. When I was younger, I did a lot of sports and everything like that. I was not really a sports person in, I think, 6th to 8th grade. I was in and out of jiu-jitsu because that was like my outlet to wrestling almost. It's like, I want to become a pro wrestler. The closest thing to me is jiu-jitsu. So that's when I joined. And then at that point, I kind of was like, falling out of wrestling a little bit. It just wasn't entertaining to me at that point. So I quit. But then I got into it again, and now I'm here. So
definitely, that's cool. On a jiu-jitsu background, I've taken jiu-jitsu myself. I'm a big mixed martial arts fan. So
oh, great,
yeah, they all kind of combined in some way or fashion. And talk about paying your dues. I know we've seen you at the shows. So what does your day typically look like of a wrestling event?
On show days, it's mostly waking up, whatever, and then we usually get there, depending on what show day it is, we'll get there a couple hours earlier to set up. And mostly it's a lot more at Logan Square. You have a lot more to set up with having such a higher audience going in, and setting up the ring, the chairs, lighting. And it's crazy. I will say it's trying to get everything together, but with all the students going in and helping out, it goes by a lot smoother than I would always expect, so that's mainly the day. And then we get to chill out afterwards before the show starts. And then usually what I do is I ring the bell. So I just go up there and I'm able to ring the bell and kind of calm down after that a little bit. It's a whole lot of work though, trying to get the ring put together. Luckily it's on the ceiling this time instead of bringing it up the stairs. I know I never had to deal with that, but I've had a lot of my friends from freelance say, like, you guys have the lucky end now, because they've always had to bring it up flights of stairs rather than taking it from the ceiling and just putting it right there. But that's typically it. Most of that day is just devoted to wrestling.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure, and it's a taxing. Now are you going to school right now, or we're working, right? So
yeah. So I actually took a gap year. I'm gonna be starting college next year in August, or not next year, but like this August. And but right now I am working. I work at a nursing home and I just do social work. So that's pretty much it. But it's you work so much, and then I go straight to wrestling afterwards. You almost really never catch a break. So once I start school, I'm gonna have to make time for a lot of things. So
yes, Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Talk about, training, of course, why you chose the Freelance Wrestling Academy.
Yeah, so I actually had connections into freelance with someone named Tommy Else, and I knew him from my friend's wrestling company. And so when I wanted to start wrestling, we contacted them and we're like, I eventually wanted to get a personal trainer because I wasn't really in the best shape to go into wrestling at the time.
Mhm.
So they kind of geared us towards Tommy and was like, he's actually a personal trainer already. He has pro wrestling background. So I was like, okay, this is great. Um, so I trained with him for about 2 years to get myself into shape before I went to freelance. And he actually knew a trainer at freelance. So that's kind of how I got in. And I've loved it ever since. I really don't know if I would, want to go anywhere else because I just love it there. Everybody's like great with each other.
Yeah, for sure. It's in the city. That's convenient for a lot of people as well, and one of the only schools in the city. I think the only
Oh,
one.
right.
You talk about freelance is like a big family. So, do you have any fun stories that you have to tell?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. There's so much that happens, and to be quite honest, like my memory is just so bad. But a big thing I would say is that when me and Saban, we went down to Texas for GCW. We rode in the car
Mhm.
together, and it was such a long car ride, but it was just that memory that was made is just
Yes.
getting there. Our Airbnb wasn't open, so we had to like go sleep in a parking lot for the night, and then the morning of was GCW. So I mean, like that is just like I would never think I'd be sleeping in a car in a parking lot, but here I
Mhm.
am. That's just the first step of like I guess adventures of that wrestling or like wrestling world or whatever. But I mean, a lot of it is just like fun times within class and everything like that. It's we all joke around, and it's just a lot of inside jokes that are made, and
Sure.
it's just a whole lot that goes on.
I can only imagine. Yeah, freelance wrestling is just seems like it's nonstop. You guys are selling out shows. You're gonna have this big Emporium show. So talk about that as well. I mean, making that debut at the Emporium.
um I'm so nervous, but I'm so excited. When I found out, I believe it was last Wednesday, I want to say, usually before shows, we do get a lot of new students, or at least one or two students weekly. So
Hmm.
we usually just like to say like, this is kind of what we're expecting, whatever. And they kind of just went into saying like, paying your dues does not go unnoticed. And so eventually they announced that I was having my first match. And, for me, I was always like, oh, I'm not ready. But no one ever thinks they're ready for their first match. It's, yourself more than anybody else, but, your trainers see how you're wrestling. You can't
Sure.
necessarily see yourself wrestle all the time. So I was so surprised, but I'm so stoked. And especially it being at, like an Emporium show with something like of that nature kind of being new to us. I know we had a last show that sold out, and being able to go back, it's such a fun environment. And I wasn't on the show, but I was out there to watch and everything like that. And so many people had so much fun. So I'm stoked to have it there as my first match.
Nice, nice. And talk about training with some of the greatest wrestlers in Chicago. We have Kylie Ray, Isaiah Velasquez, Ego Robert Anthony, who's the champion, and
Yeah,
Trevor Outlaw.
oh yeah, it's crazy to me. Everything is coming full circle. When I was younger, I watched Nyx wrestle. I watched Castro wrestle. A big one was Ego. And when my first day, I got an email, or like the day before or whatever, and it was saying that Ego was going to be a trainer. And I was like, oh my gosh, I watched him wrestle. I grew up watching him wrestle, and for him to be one of my trainers was, almost an honor, just because it's coming full circle for me. And it's crazy, I'm only 19, and to have this all coming at me at once
Mhm.
was just like insane. And for Kylie to be one of like the, not even just one of the biggest independent wrestlers, female independent wrestlers, and for me to look up to her and to train with her, it's just truly an honor to be able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so much years of experience combined. I'm sure you get a lot of great feedback from them.
Oh,
And
oh, most definitely.
Yeah, and then another thing I was thinking is, so when you go to that, like the big show, like the Collective, in Dallas, do you ever try to talk to wrestlers like, hey, I'm wrestling, do you have any advice, or do you kind of like stray away from that?
So I usually try to give them their own space just
Hmm.
because there's so much going on and
Sure.
we're kind of like some expectations. And if we do talk to them, it's more just like, a friendly hello, like, how's it going kind of deal. But I'm usually there just to hang out and like help set up and do whatever I can over there. But there were a few wrestlers that I knew before I went there
Sure.
and that I've actually spoken with. So even then, I was just talking to them and I was asking, is there anything you need me to do or what can I do in the future for myself? So even then, you just get great advice from them.
Definitely. And a lot of the freelance wrestlers, they do travel, they do other events. They have like Journey Pro, Glory Pro, which is amazing. Everybody should watch that on YouTube. So you're looking forward to doing that, traveling?
I'm really looking forward to it. It's I love to travel. It's kind of ironic though. Like I always get car sick, so it's like being in the
Hmm.
car. I'm gonna have to drive a lot, and there's like
Right.
necessarily nothing I can do about it. But it's something that I do want to do. So it's suck it up and just get to the show. You'll be fine. Half the time I'll probably be sleeping, so I shouldn't be getting car sick. But it's I'm just very excited to go travel.
For sure. And when you look at professional wrestling today, what do you feel is more indicative for a match? Indicative for a match, storytelling or the crazy spots or both? Like, what
Oh,
stands out for you?
I think it kind of almost just depends on what each person is looking for. For me, it's kind of just a mixture of all. I think,
Hmm.
just a wrestling match should have great storytelling. Crazy spots are just fun to look at. Um, but I know it's just, some part of that wrestling community, they want to see the crazy spots. They want to see what, crazy stuff people can do. But then sometimes the other part of the community just wants to see, like, does this match make sense to me? Is this
Hmm.
storytelling happening? So in all honesty, like, I don't know if I'd be able to give a straight answer on that, but I think it's just a matter of, getting all of that in and, balancing that out within a match.
For sure. Which wrestlers do you enjoy studying and why?
Oh goodness, I don't even know. There's so many. I really do enjoy. I mean, it's CM Punk is just one person that I've always just kind of looked up to, mostly because I mean, we're from Chicago.
Yeah.
It's just I feel like in the nature of that, his promo skills. I mean, that's one thing I also look at. It's I don't know if I necessarily, study one specific wrestler though. It's kind of like, oh, this match is, going on. I'll watch that and study that match rather than trying to pick out specific
Hmm.
wrestlers. Um, I know Eddie Kingston is a big one. I really like Eddie Kingston, uh, and Asuka too. So it's just, piece by piece, I'll take in.
Yeah, definitely. I got you on Oscar for sure.
Oh yeah.
She's amazing. Yeah, did you get to see the Hell in a Cell, and what did you think of like Cody Rhodes going there with a torn pec muscle? You think this might be a trend where wrestlers will go in with these crazy
I
injuries?
I don't know. I was watching it with a friend that night and I heard about it earlier that day and we were talking about it. We're like, well, we don't know what's going to go, what's going to happen and everything like that. And then we saw that he was going to go through with it. I'd never seen a torn pec like bruise before. And so when he took
Yeah,
that off, I was like the coat off, I was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot worse than I thought it would be. So I mean, it's crazy that he put himself through that to, for the fans, for himself to get that match done. And it's still mind blowing me that he decided to do that.
for sure. I know women's wrestling has become huge. It generated so much interest the past few years. How do you plan on making an impact as a performer?
I hope to just keep going to training as much as I can and just
Hmm.
better myself. A lot of it is just getting to know your basics very well. Um, it helps so much within matches, and it's you don't always want to learn that flippy stuff, the crazy spots until you really have those basics down because the basics do come into that, like come into play with that. And if you don't have that down, you might get injured, something wrong might happen. And so I just hope to just better myself and differentiate myself in a way with like my gimmick or anything like
Hmm.
that, gear and whatnot, because I have so many ideas that I want to do that I hope to
Sure.
eventually get that to come to life and everything.
Yeah, we're excited to see, what you have to bring, obviously is a secret for now, right?
So yeah, but it's with women's wrestling evolving and everything like that.
Yeah,
It's another person. I should have said earlier with Chris Statlander. Um, she's amazing. I really like her and her like evolution into what she's becoming now. So you have a lot to compete with, but I'm hoping to get myself there.
definitely. Well, you talk about the evolution, Chris Statlander, you see some of the stuff on the indies. She was like peeing like a dog and doing all kinds of funky stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, now she's taking it way more seriously. And
Right.
yeah, you got to appreciate that. Do you have like admiration for a lot of these women's wrestlers just because it's not easy, going into all men's territory. I mean, obviously it's gotten a lot more inviting and welcoming, but we've had some, in the early days it was tough.
Right.
Sure.
I'd say it's kind of I do have an admiration for like the women's wrestlers. It's with a lot of I see so many things on Twitter where, people kind of disagree with the women's wrestling. Oh, whatever, and whatever comments they make. But at the end of the day, it's like we're still, one thing trying our best.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that, the women's wrestling like area and the women's wrestlers in general are able to compete with, men and everything like that because we do as the others. It's just a matter of, training and everything like that and getting to know your body yourself to be safe and then work with others. So, I mean, especially with them starting, earlier than me, I'm younger than all of them and,
Right.
they started at a different time. I wouldn't be able to know what it was like back then with starting with that and, thinking, oh, how am I going to get through with this? But even now with me, when I tell, some people that I wrestle, they're like, oh, like, WWE wrestling. And I was like, yeah, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, well, isn't that like predominantly men? What are you going to do? And it's kind of just like, well, this is what's, making me happy. I'm finally invested in something for once in my life. So it's
Right.
like, so it's something that I just really enjoy. And then it's, a lot of people don't understand, but it's kind of just your mindset against others. So yeah.
For sure. And one thing about freelance is there is no like particular women's championship in the freelance and freelance underground. So it's like all titles up for grabs,
Right.
not gender specific.
Right, exactly. And I actually really enjoy that. I really do want to have a lot of like, intergender matches
Mm-hmm.
per se and having not like really a specific women's like, title I think is also just really good to just have up for grabs. I know Kylie was oh goodness, I can't even remember, but she was the champion at the time. And just to see her have that championship and, being able to have not gender specific ones is great to like, look forward to and everything like that.
For sure. And, talk about your mindset going to this freelance debut match, how similar and how different it is from training,
It's oh my goodness, I'm usually always nervous, going to training or going to a show in general, even ringing the bell, I'm always nervous.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't want to mess something up, but I will say that I have been going to training a lot more since I have found out that I was going to have my match. Originally I was like just going 2 times a week, mostly because of my schedule and everything like that, but I moved my schedule around to make sure I'm ready for this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to mess up. I just want things to go basics. So at least if something is to happen, we know what to do. Just go to your basics. You're good to go. So I think that's just one thing is to, not worry about it, especially until day of, getting anxiety at least. Like I don't want to have anxiety for the next 2 weeks because of something that's
Yes.
happened in 2 weeks. So that's just one big thing.
Yeah, for sure. When you have the 4th of July afterwards, it'll break afterwards.
Right.
Sure, right? It just seems like wrestling finally takes a little break during those holiday weekends, extended
Exactly.
holiday weekends. Now, talk about engaging the live audience, being prepared to interact with them at the press start event and, moving forward, of course.
So, fortunately, in I think November of last year, I did get to have like a one-off match with Missa Kate
Okay.
at Championship Wrestling. It was an opportunity for me to at least get to work in front of a crowd. Granted, it was not a very long match at all. It was just a squash match, whatever.
Right.
that I was given that opportunity to have that match. And behind the curtain the whole time I think we were semi-main, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to wait this long, for something, for this match that it's not necessarily so long of a match. So it's like, you calm down, it's okay. But I did get to experience that, and behind that curtain I'm freaking out. But the moment I stepped through that curtain, it was weird. Everything went away. That anxiety went away. And so I almost, I don't want to say forced myself, but going around giving high fives or something like that. I was like, just do it, Cameron. It's fine. Just you'll get through it. And I did. And everybody was, happy with it, and, congratulated me in the back. A lot of freelance students are, wrestlers there now. We're actually at that show. So I was really happy to have like my first match with, on the same card as the people that I just love being around and everything like that. So it's going to be a bigger challenge though, with a lot more people being at Emporium. So I don't know how that's going to go, but I'm hoping that it'll go fine.
For sure. Well, we'll be cheering you on, of course. And I feel like as a pro wrestler, I feel, from the outside looking in, at the end of the day, it's putting smiles on the fans' faces. Talk about, after the match, meeting some fans, not at this show, but perhaps one day young girls who are, influenced by you, look up to you.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've been in that place before, trying to go out and see, wrestlers and meet them, and, oh, I want to be like you when I grow up and everything like that. And I hope to just have that same effect on, in the future, because I know the shows are like 21 plus, so there's not going to be any younger girls, but like younger kids in general. But in the future, to make people excited to, watch wrestling in general. And my gimmick, I'm hopefully thinking that it'll put smiles on people's faces. I'm really excited for it. So that is one thing that I'm hoping will at least help me myself to keep enjoying wrestling with this gimmick that I want to do and everything like that. So when that time comes, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. And you got a fun roster, of men and women at Freelance, and, shout out to, of course, like the Laney Lux and Blair Onyxes. They've been doing so well coming from Freelance.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And like, I've seen my one friend, Guerrera, I met her, I think last year. She came to Freelance. I know she was there before COVID happened, and then she came back. And seeing her just even have that evolution again, where she started then and then what she's becoming now, it's great to see their progress. So it's just one that's also a particular person which I was able to see their progress. And for example, I never really trained with Laney, but I train with Blair sometimes, and even then, I mean, everybody's improving. So
Yeah, for sure. It seems like it's just a constant, work in progress.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
To get there. And we appreciate you, Cam, being on Pro Wrestling Enforcer podcast. So if anyone you'd like to thank, go ahead. The floor is yours. And
I would just like to say thank you just to Freelance and, my family and everything, especially, Izzy, Kylie, Rob, and everybody else who's there helping me out. So I hope to keep going with my journey of wrestling.
Definitely. And we appreciate you being on Pro Wrestling Enforcer podcast. Make sure to check out, press start. June 30th, get your tickets now, because it's going to be sold out at the Emporium in Logan Square. And we appreciate you, Cam, being on the show. You're welcome back anytime. Best of luck to you.
Thank you so much. I hope you have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.